Hey guys, it's Joe with Modern Survival Sense, and I'm here to discuss a popular topic with you, EDC knives. EDC, if you're not familiar, is an acronym for Everyday Carry. It basically describes the knife that you have on your person at all times for whatever task that you deem necessary. And I'm here to discuss what exactly is the best EDC knife and what to look for when choosing your EDC blade. Your first consideration when choosing a blade is purpose. What exactly are you going to need the knife to do? Are you going to be cutting open packages and cutting boxes, or are you going to need something a little bit stronger? Your next consideration, and possibly the most important one, is legality. What are you legally able to carry in your state? Some laws restrict the carry of fixed blade knives or dirks, or gravity knives, or knives of certain lengths. You have to be very careful as to what the law specifies that you can carry, because the last thing you want to have happen is to be caught with a knife that's outside the legal range. And if so, that's considered a weapon, and there's some serious consequences to that. Once you've decided purpose and determined legality, your next consideration is the operation of the knife. You have the option to have a fixed blade knife. The good thing about fixed blade knives is they're very sturdy. They're stronger than any of the other locks on the table because there are no locks. This works out well for any type of prying motion, not that you should pry with a knife, or any harder tasks. If you need a hard use knife, ideally fixed blade is the way to go. Your next operation on the table here is your butterfly knife, and it is the second strongest one on the table because it acts as a fixed blade knife. Now I'm not going to flip this for you, but as you notice, there are no locking mechanisms except for this pin down here, and it makes this knife very strong. It's not going to close up. It'll handle hard tasks. Like I said, it's the second strongest mechanism on the table, right under fixed blade. Now, I will never carry this. It's a nice knife, but unfortunately it's not legal in my state, so you'll never see me with it. Now, I'm not going to get into exactly which locking mechanism is stronger than another, because in general they're all about the same. Now, some may perform better than others, but like I said, in general, they are going to be the same, and you're not going to want to use your folding knife in some massive hard task that's going to test that locking mechanism. For regular tasks, regular cutting tasks, any locking mechanism is going to be just fine, and in a lot of cases, non-locking knives will work also. Now, before you have your frame lock, like so. Your liner lock, your lock back, and then you also have this, which is a different type of locking mechanism. It has a locking ring, and this is the Opinel number 6 in stainless, and it locks in the open position as well as the closed position. You also want to consider how easy it will be to operate your knife. Generally, fixed bladed knives can be operated with one hand. Same with your butterfly knives or balisongs. Your liner locks with flippers can also work one-handed, either with the flipper or the holes or thumb studs in some cases. Your frame locks are also a one-handed opening. Your lockback knives are kind of a mixed bag when it comes to operation. The Spyderco Native is real easy to open and close one-handed, and it's quite safe to do so. It has a little bit of a choil there that will act as a guard so that you don't cut yourself when closing the knife. This buck knife, however, requires a lot more pressure in order to get this to open one-handed, and as you can tell, it is designed to be open one-handed. It does have the thumb stud there, but like I said, there's a lot more pressure required, and when it comes time to closing it, because of that pressure, it's a lot more difficult to close it one-handed, so it's actually better to close it two-handed, just to avoid cutting yourself. This is a traditional lockback knife. It is a Bucklight 422. It's based off of Buck's 110 with a plastic handle instead. And this is going to be a two-handed operated knife. The only assisted opening knife that I have on the table is my old Camelus lever lock knife. And it doesn't have a spring to open, but it does have this lever. And it opens almost like a regular assisted opening knife. And this can be opened and closed one-handed very, very easily. But you have to be careful not to close it on your finger and cut yourself. Now the open L with the ring locking mechanism is always going to be a two-handed operated knife. This may or may not be an issue for you. Still functions. You just can't open it with one hand. The next consideration when choosing an EDC blade is your method of carry. How are you going to carry this knife? The most popular way to carry an EDC blade generally is a pocket clip, and most knives come with those. Some pocket clips are a little bit deeper than others, and some aren't very deep at all. Now some knives don't even come with pocket clips, such as the Bucklight 422, the Open L, obviously, or even your butterfly knives. Generally they're not going to have a pocket clip. Now some may, this one doesn't. In those cases you have to rely on either the provided sheath that it may come with, or just have it resting in the bottom of your pocket if that's where you choose to carry it. Now fixed blade knives are the same way. They don't come with pocket clips generally, and you have to find some other way to carry it, either at the bottom of your pocket or attach it to some other object like your belt or a pack or whatnot. Generally I carry them in pocket if I have a fixed blade with me. Once you've decided how you're going to carry the knife, your next consideration should be the size and weight of the knife that you're willing to carry. Now when I refer to size, I'm talking about the blade size. Generally I will categorize an EDC blade in three different categories ranging from small to medium to large. A small blade, in my opinion, is somewhere in the 2.5 to 3 inch range, and that would be like your Buck Vantage small here, and this is 2 5/8. Now medium is going to be somewhere in the 3 to 3.5 inch range. And this other buck knife, I'm not trying to play favorites here, but this other buck is in the 3 1/4 inch, I believe, range, or 3 1/8, somewhere around there. And in the large category, anything between 3.5 and 4 inches, it'd be like this zero tolerance. And as you can see, there's 3 different sizes there, and this would be small, medium, and large in my opinion. When considering the weight of your EDC blade, you want to find something that's going to be comfortable to carry, and this is going to be subjective from one person to the next. You also want to consider the geometry of the blade itself. Some blade geometries lend themselves better to slicing, where others are better for strength. The Buck 426, for example, has a hollow ground edge. What this does is, even though the spine is somewhat thick at 1/8 of an inch, because it's hollow ground, it actually thins the edge near the cutting surface, and what this does is it creates a very fine cutting edge. It makes for a very good slicer. Whereas the ZT 560 actually has a flat ground edge. And instead of it being hollow ground like the buck, what this does is it provides more material behind the cutting surface, so when you're putting a lot of pressure on there, there's a lot of strength right there at the cutting edge. So depending on the purpose of the knife, that may be preferable. The next consideration is blade steel, and blade steel is important in regards to edge retention and ease of sharpening. When selecting your EDC knife, you want to make sure that the steel that it's made of is known and that it's of quality manufacturer. On the table, there are several different types of steel that you can choose from for picking your EDC knife. In the fixed blades, I have a high carbon steel, which is not stainless at all. The good thing about high carbon steel is it's very tough. It takes a very fine edge and it does last for a little while. The only issue with carbon steel is you have to be careful that it can rust. So there's a little bit more maintenance that's required with those knives. I also have a lower end stainless steel, which are the Bucks in the 420HC steel. Now Buck is known for having a good heat treat with their 420HC, so it's not a bad steel. It is low end, but with the low end steel you also get a lower price. I also have a mid-range stainless steel, which is a Sandvik steel, as well as a higher end S30V to LMAX steel. I purposely put blade steel a little bit lower on the considerations list, and that's because if you have a quality manufacturer who's producing the blade and it's heat treated properly, most steels will actually perform how you need them to perform. So whether you have a stainless steel or carbon steel, it really doesn't matter that much. Carbon steel, like 1095 and these two blades, is going to be a little bit more prone to rust. However, they are a tougher steel than, say, some of your lower end stainless steels like the 420HC from Buck. Now with the higher grade stainless steels, you do get higher edge retention, but with that higher edge retention, you also have a harder ability to sharpen the blade. So you need to take that into account when picking your EDC blade. Next on the list is ergonomics, or how well the knife fits into your hand. And this is going to be completely up to you, the user, whether or not you want to have a full grip on the knife, like such, or a partial grip on, say, some of the smaller knives. And it's also dependent upon what you're using the knife for. For harder tasks, I would suggest using something that has a full grip, such as the fixed blade knife. That way you get more leverage on the cutting edge. But what you're looking for primarily is whether or not the knife fits comfortably into your hand. If there's a whole lot of sharp edges on it, you're not going to want to use the knife. It's going to hurt your hand. The last consideration on my list is probably one of the more important ones, and that's aesthetics, or whether or not the knife looks nice to you. Obviously, if you don't like the look of a knife, you're not going to purchase it, let alone carry it or carry it on an everyday basis. So that's pretty much a given. You're going to like the knife before you buy it, looks-wise. Now, on the same token, you may want to take into account what other people may feel about your knife. And you may feel that, that's not a concern, and that's very valid. It is your knife after all. However, you're taking this into a public place. You may be using it in a public place. And if you choose one that's a little less aggressive, you may have better results or a better reaction from the public around you. With all of that being said, my current favorite EDC blade is the Buck Vantage Avid Small. I prefer a smaller blade with a nice hollow ground blade. It has a drop point design. It is very aesthetically pleasing to me. It has very nice curves. It has the faux wood handles. It's a liner lock. It has a very deep pocket clip. It's very lightweight. And what I really like about this, because of the size of it, when I put it into my pocket, it literally disappears. I could put it in my pocket, and 1 second later, I will not even realize I have the knife in my pocket, because you just cannot feel it. And that's what I like about this. I may change my opinion later on, but I've been carrying this for several months now, and I have a couple others actually, the Paper Stone model and the high-end one as well, but I like the look of this one, and it does everything I need of it. Alright, well, I appreciate you watching my video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. This is Joe. See ya.